Welcome to another episode of the Scottish Property Podcast. My name is Stephen Clark and I'm joined by a co-host in the studio, Nick Ponty. Bringing you all the latest news, guys, keeping you up to date with the property market. Welcome to the Scottish Property Podcast, John Cox. We have brought you in to do this month's market update. It's the April market update. You've kindly given up your time to come across from Edinburgh, so just explain to the listeners a little bit about your background and what it is you actually do.
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. Cox Co is our business. This has been going for, if you were to break it down over history, it's over 40 years. It was initially a family business. I suppose the thing most people will be interested in is the last decade since I've been at the helm. We're essentially Scotland's first and currently only, as far as I'm aware, property investment house. What stemmed from initially a mortgage brokerage, we diversified into lettings and property management, and from there grew a sales and sourcing arm, predominantly off-market private acquisitions, to where we are now, as we're working with local, national and global investors who are looking to invest in the Scottish property market and helping them either building current portfolios, tidying up their existing portfolios and helping people exit where needed as well.
And how many properties are you managing at the moment?
We're relatively modest. We've got just over 300 properties.
Right, so you've obviously got a fair bit of experience in the private rented sector, which is why we've got you on here to get your view on
for a fair bit,
how things are panning out. Are you a landlord yourself as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can give your own personal experience as well from a landlord's perspective too,
sure,
which is great. So we've picked out what we do in the market update. Stephen, you're sitting here looking pretty nervous here. Stephen Clark's here looking a bit white. So obviously he's done his research and his prep on all the latest news, haven't you? What story did you want to put into the mix for today's market update?
I'm sure you lead this conversation since this is your favourite subject of the month, Nick. It's talking about all the negative news stories, and I'm hoping that John's puts a nice big positive spin on it.
John did say he was going to come with a positive attitude, so we'll see how long that lasts. So I'm going to start you off here. We get off to a great start with our new leader, Hamza Yusuf. So obviously we get rid of Nicola Sturgeon. We thought, things might be a little bit better for landlords here or property investors. And what's one of the first things Hamza puts out there is the possible doubling of council tax on second homes in Scotland. So this is a news article that basically says that if you've got a second home, whether that be a holiday let or an Airbnb or something like that, then you could possibly face the doubling of your council tax rate. So they're going to give the local authorities the power to do that. Now, this is just a consultation, so there's obviously a process where it has to go through Parliament, to get it rubber stamped and all the rest of it.
Sounds like one step better than Nicola Sturgeon already. At least it's gone through a consultation.
That's true. That's true. They just didn't announce overnight. So I don't know. I mean, at the moment, I'm just thinking how this could affect, landlords and property investors. And John, do you have any thoughts on this?
Well, obviously, there's still a lot of ifs and buts on that. I think if there's any properties sitting vacant for a prolonged period of time, whether or not they will be subject to the double tax if it comes in. I don't think it's going to affect the long-term rental market too much. There is argument to suggest that people that do have second homes, there is something perhaps they should be looking at here in terms of taxation on this. This has been going on for quite some time in England and Wales already. Again, it's regionalised. Whether or not we should be looking to it regionalised in Scotland as well. I'm not sitting here saying I'm 100% for this by any means, but I do think the consultation is definitely necessary.
What I get annoyed about is they come out with these things as if it's going to solve the housing shortage. By doing this is going to increase the supply of homes in local communities and stuff like that, where, in rural areas up in the Highlands and stuff like that, they do have a major problem, not enough housing. I mean, down here, everywhere. But it's just not, it's not going to solve the issue. And the issue is, we come back to every time that we talk about this sort of stuff, is just to build more houses.
Absolutely. There's far bigger fishes to fry. There's whales to fry. There's so much more to be getting on with, rather than this being one of the first things that they step up to discuss.
And they're trying to deflect it off, the politicians and the government onto people that are fortunate enough to be able to invest in property and have a second home or a holiday let or whatever. And, okay, fair enough. Maybe there's an argument to say, okay, well, if you're in that position of wealth, then maybe you should be paying a little bit more. But it's just not going to solve the main issue which they're trying to fix.
Absolutely.
I think that's the bottom line. Then there's the kind of fear that, obviously, if they start doing that, at the moment, me, you, all of us as landlords, we obviously apply for our exemptions when a property's become vacant after if they're unfurnished. You can get 100% for 6 months, I think, like that. That's so then correct, there's the fear if they start doing this, so they're going to start, tampering with other things.
Well, I think that's the biggest concern, is that, and again, savvy landlords and investors out there will then start looking at what's the next thing they can try and do to try and cut their own costs here, there and everywhere. And I just think it's going to cause more volatility across the market, if anything.
Possibly just a revenue generating exercise then.
Of course it is, as always.
As always, yeah. You always seem to have a problem as well trying to claim that empty home, that empty exemption, the council tax. And even when you send pictures to the council saying that I'm giving this property a refurb where the kitchen dripped out or the bathroom dripped out, and we'll give you 50% discount because it was already claimed before you bought it or whatever. It's always a pain to try and get over, but you're trying to get these properties back into circulation by renovating them. But it seems like now they're going to double it and penalise you heavily for even during that renovation process.
I think they should be spending far more time looking at the empty properties that are in the country that are properly vacant, rather than worrying about people's second homes at this precise moment in time, in my opinion.
That's a good point. Okay, moving on to our next article is the City Lets report. So obviously City Lets collect the data from their advertised rental listings. So these are new properties that come to the market, and then they analyse it and put it into a quarterly report. I always find it quite good. I like the presentation, the way they present it, city by city, region by region, all the rest of it. You can really see what's going on. Just to give an overview of Scotland in general, average rents now stand at over £1,000 a month for the first time. I think that was the headline. Ever. Rent change over the 12 months up 12.4%. That's across the country. If we start looking at the numbers, I mean, I'll swing the laptop around. I don't know if you can really see that.
Yep.
So we've got Edinburgh there. What's that? 13%. So we'll just compare the main cities there. In fact, I'll read it. So we've got Edinburgh at 13%, Glasgow 13.7%. Aberdeen 10.4%, lagging behind a wee bit.
Getting there.
It's pretty good.
Come back to vengeance.
10% rise over 12 months is still, I mean, in normal times that would be considered exceptional.
Sure.
In current times it's lagging behind. Dundee 15.7%. So, things, this, the main point is here, this is not sustainable, is it?
But it's kind of not in line with inflation anyway.
Well, that's a good point. I think the thing is, as we all know, with the lack of rent increases, although we're 1 month in now, or almost 1 month into these 3% increases, it just goes to show anything that comes vacant to the market, if the agents out there are immediately jumping on there and bringing it up to market levels. Because of the lack of stock, obviously, as always, there's supply and demand. Rents have jumped, and anything that is coming to market is going on at quite a higher level than whatever was previously.
How can you give any specific case studies or examples in Edinburgh where, I can give you one, a 2-bedroom flat in Glasgow, which the tenant had been in 3 years. It's just moving out. We've reviewed the rent on it. We thought we were putting it up pretty high, and we put it up so it was originally rented at £850 a month. That was 3 years ago. We went on at 1,200, thinking that we might struggle. Absolutely inundated with inquiries. So from 850 to 1,200 in 3 years, that's quite a jump.
Absolutely, but it's been going like that month on month.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember listening to your monthly update with Marcus, and the same sort of conversation. And even listening to that, I could knock off 5 or 6 examples ourselves. And we're the same. I mean, we put a £3,000 a month property on the market there on Friday, and we've had 7 inquiries over the weekend, and we've got 5 viewings today. I'd imagine by the time I get back to the office this afternoon, it should be under offer. And that's madness. That would normally be an average time to let of 15 to 20 days, and we're expecting to get that away within 5.
Wow.
And you just wonder, is it just going to get worse?
It's not sustainable, but what the frustration is the government's intervening with rent demand. As investors, as landlords. That's our business. Our costs are going up. Of course, they're going to go up associated with it. It's just in line with inflation.
I think it's here to stay. I think we've got these. Do I think it'll always remain at 3%? No. I think we'll get some sort of happy medium at some point. But I think we all need to start getting comfortable as landlords and letting agents that it's going to be here for the long term.
And just your experience in the letting agency then, you know, like, have you seen, I'll bring up the next news story because the Property Mark agents, Property Mark people, whatever they're called, I don't know how you describe them. Property Mark are
the Property Mark.
The Property Mark. They're going to be like, we're never going to be able to get anyone from Property Mark on the podcast now. But it's like similar to kind of Scottish Association of Landlords. They're kind of body where letting agents go to. They've come out with a report where they went round letting agents and asked them if they'd seen any increase in landlords selling up, and 94% of letting agents have reported an increase in investors choosing to get rid of their properties. So that's pretty huge as well. So as far as you're concerned,
absolutely. I mean,
you had noticed it.
I mean, again, you could look at that negatively. I look at this right now, the way the market is right now is so much opportunity as well. Yes, there's a lot of your accidental everyday landlords just now panicking. The ones that when a pull cord and a bathroom breaks, they have a cry about it. But again, there's an argument to suggest, well, maybe they haven't been managing their finances correctly, and if they need every last penny of that rental profit, if you will, to live, then perhaps they haven't been managing the properties correctly in the first place. Again, I just feel that, yes, we have a lot of conversations on a weekly basis with some of our landlords with 1 or 2 properties. I think some of our larger portfolio owner landlords look at this time as a time of opportunity.
And like, what do you mean by that? Like, opportunity, that just to build the portfolio into like a more of a kind of look at it like a kind of trading business.
Absolutely,
rather than just be the kind of see it as a kind of a little thing on the side.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of how we run our portfolio at Cox Co. Is that we kind of class ourselves as I said, property investment managers rather than just property managers. And a lot of our landlords, they do unfortunately just look at it as a spreadsheet exercise. So in some respects, we're sitting there trading property between landlords.
It feels like since Section 24, though, that's been the way it's been going.
Absolutely.
And like you said, the accidental landlords with the 1 or 2 properties in their own personal name are just getting squeezed out the marketplace. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if like you say, if they're running it with every penny as a prisoner and spending that cash flow every month, and as soon as it comes to any kind of maintenance, they're grudging it, and it's not getting treated like a business. And
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's awful, and I'm with everybody else. I guess I'm sick to the back teeth, which is how much landlords are being penalised across the Scottish market. It's horrendous. But from a business perspective, it's amazing how many opportunities this has opened up for your portfolio landlords, your professional landlords, and allowing them access to new stock that actually might fit their portfolio so much better than the landlord that maybe has 1 or 2 properties on their books.
Yeah. And do you think that stock is staying in the private rental sector? You know, like obviously these small landlords that are selling up, you know, like obviously the fear is that they're going to like first time buyers and all the rest of it, and then obviously that's diminishing the actual private stock, which is obviously causing the increased rents.
Yeah,
and all that.
There's definitely an argument for that as well. When we've seen a number of our landlords, we've sat them down, provided them a full portfolio view, valued all their stock for them, looked at how much of their wealth is tied up in those properties, and we ourselves have went to them and said, look, the best thing for you to do is to sell vacant possession.
Yeah.
And then at that point is whether or not we can step in and try and assist with trying to source the buyer for them, or whether or not we're having to go to the open market, which is not trying to plug ourselves too much, but as of the 1st of May, we're actually launching our very own estate agency proposition for that very reason.
There you go. So I think this is an interesting thing about the whole professionalising of the market, and I do see it eventually as, I mean, even like landlords, like I've got 12 properties, right, so very small. Probably, I don't know in how many years, maybe to say 20 years, you could just be like, could all just be like big corporate landlords, you know, like you look in America, for example, right? It's they've got like Blackstone and all that, massive real estate, REITs and investment funds and stuff that they just, money's no object, they just build big blocks and stuff like that. And that's already started happening, isn't it? Edinburgh, Glasgow.
Oh yeah, the Cardone Capital model, you know, that is coming to the UK in a big way, and we're seeing it in London, we're seeing it in Manchester. I was speaking to a few big developers in Manchester just end of last week about something very similar, and I think our market's a bit too small for it.
Yeah.
In all honesty, I think there's always going to be space for that landlords with 1 properties to 10 properties, but we are certainly seeing, certainly at our end, a lot more portfolio landlords coming to the fore, or people who are prepared to step up to the plate and start building large portfolios through ourselves. Absolutely.
Like you say, the expectations now, of tenants and the way that landlords are in the public spotlight. It's just no room for being tight now as a landlord. You have to maintain your properties to a decent level. You need to be responsible. You need to reinvest in your house and stock as well.
And your portfolio needs to be, I think, at scale to manage that process, like you mentioned there as well. If you've got a handful of properties and a pool cord goes, and it's a couple £100 to send an electrician out to go and fix it, that hits the cash flow on one or two properties. But if you've got 10, 20, 30 properties, that's just getting absorbed in the rent roll in the business that can handle that.
But then that comes back down to landlord education. And that's probably where we try and set ourselves apart from others, is that we spend a lot of time not just qualifying properties for our landlords, but qualifying our landlords and educating them. And I think as the model is changing towards being a better fit for portfolio landlords, it's crucial to have the qualifications, the experience, and able to sit them down and advise and educate these landlords. I'm a great believer of saying, look, you're an investor first, landlord second. Absolutely. But when you actually put your landlord hat on, you've got to be a bloody good landlord.
How much do you advise your clients, just out of interest, while we're on this subject, when you're looking at numbers and breaking it down, what do you set aside for maintenance and repairs, just out of interest?
Anything between a 10% to 20% buffer. Yeah. And again, but everybody says that, anybody asks, it's the same. It kind of goes down to the balance across their portfolio, the age of their properties, location. We always talk about structure and balance in our books. When we're sitting down with discovery calls with our clients, it's a case of, right, well, let's make sure we get the right structure, whether it's personal name, limited company, trust, whatever it is they're looking to try and do. And the next step is the balance on the portfolio. So size of properties, locations, ages, EPC ratings, etc., etc. And off the back of that, once you, we've got some fancy little spreadsheets that are brainiacs in the office that are far brainier than I am, but we can then structure that and say, well, based on your portfolio, we would advise you to be putting away 12%.
Something that's not talked about a lot, and the maintenance and repairs is a thing where people just overlook it at the start. When they're assessing the deal. They'll put in the 6% ADS, you'll put in the solicitor's fees, the refurb costs and that, but the ongoing maintenance is always a thing that seems to be left out.
Sure.
Especially when you've got sourcers. We see a lot of people, landlords and that are getting source deals from sourcers and stuff like that. You never see that 10% to 20%.
You don't see a lot of numbers, Nick, within the spreadsheets they're sending around, and it's probably my biggest bugbear. And anybody that follows me on LinkedIn have heard me talk about this in a lot of the videos that I put out. One thing that we do, which I devised a number of years ago, is every sort of penny we talk about with our clients, it's total cost of investment. It's not here's your deposit, here's your fees, here's your tax, here's what your yield or net return is. Everything is based on total cost of investment, and at the end of it, our net returns, our NROI that we work out, has the deducted maintenance costs that we're expecting over the 12 months as well.
I do quite a scaremongering thing on the workshop when I go over buy-to-lets. I think you saw it when you came and spoke at mine. As I'll look at the portfolio and we'll say, like, you've reached 15, 20 properties in your portfolio, and here's what will cash flow. So over a 20-year period, that will bring you in £2 million. Sure. And then you say, right, okay, how many kitchens are you going to replace over those 20 properties over a 20-year period? Shit. No, 2 in each property. Okay, that's put in factoring costs for kitchens, bathrooms, flooring, carpet, redecoration, tenant damage, any voids. You start breaking it down. Any major roof repairs, you break it down and it wipes out like more than half of the cash flow, and then people's faces just go, oh shit. And that's the reality of property investing. It's a business.
I always talk about having a vanilla property portfolio. Asset appreciation to me is key. Yeah. And again, that's probably, I'm lucky, most of our properties are in Edinburgh, and that is the place where you're going to get the majority of that.
So question for you, when you're doing those calculations for the investor and you're trying to calculate the return on investment, how do you factor in that capital appreciation?
So we'll look at historical data for the last 7 years.
Right.
And that's what we tend to work off, certainly at the moment. So it's 7 years worth of historical
how do I do that in Aberdeen?
Well,
minus 40%.
As an Aberdonian myself, and our business was... we were originally built and started in Aberdeen. My father opened our first offices up there, and slowly but surely we can get to that at some other point. But yeah,
so
fully aware of what you went through, Steve. I know your pain.
Factor in those annual increases back to about maybe... after 2008, when the stock market started coming up again, because we're kind of, it feels like we're on that kind of like, there's a lot of uncertainty around the market at the moment, and this will bring us on to our house prices segment, which we'll come on to next, which is bloody confusing. House prices, what is happening with house prices at the moment? So many different data points, there's so many different things saying different. You've got like Nationwide, they're basically saying house prices are going down. Halifax are saying they're going up. You've got Rightmove, you've got this data here, which I'm going to put to you here, which is the ONS. So that's the government data, which they take from the land registry. which is flawed in itself because it's lagging. So they have to wait for all the solicitors to basically log the sales prices.
That's right. It's based on February at the moment, I believe.
So
right?
yeah, so we're sitting here at the end of April and we've just had February's data. So I'm going to give you February's. So headline statistics: average price of property in Scotland is 180,287. The annual price change of property in Scotland is up 1%. So over the 12 months, property prices are still going up, but a lot slower than it was at the peak of the market, which they were going up at about 13%.
Well, that's right. If you look at some of the charts and tables they put, it actually looks that there's a massive drop in the last year. But again, we're still showing there's a steady bit of growth. Even with all the instability and volatility we have in the market, we're still kind of going roughly in the right direction.
But the monthly price change were negative 2.6% over the whole of Scotland, right? So because that's like 3 or 4 months now we've had these negatives, right? So if you keep chipping away at that overall 12 month up 13%, you keep chipping away 2% a month, eventually we're going to fall into negative.
Sure.
Which could come in the next month or two then, from your data.
So I'm expecting things to start falling in the ONS pretty over the next couple of months into negative. I don't think there's going to be a crash, maybe a slight correction, even if it goes down 10% on, if we've gained 20% over the last 2 years, then really does that really?
We've been so lucky.
Crash?
I say this to people a lot. We've been so lucky in so many different facets that a slight dip or a slight kind of drop in things, it will all level itself out at the end of the day. And again, most people who are in the game, obviously we're talking predominantly property investment here. We're in it for the long term.
Yeah,
exactly.
Looking over a 20-year period or a 30-year period, rather than just a year or a month. Or
when people say, John, when should I exit? I say when the time's right.
Yeah.
When should I exit that investment? When the time's right.
Yeah. So I do think we're on a bit of a downtrend, but just going into, because I like to picking the cities as well. So obviously, City of Glasgow, we are up 0.5% over the year. Let's get Edinburgh up here. City of Edinburgh up 2.5%, so doing pretty well over there. City of Aberdeen. Last month it was down 4%, I think. This month, over the 12 months, we're down negative 6.6%.
That's not bad.
What's happening there though? Because surely it can't be that. Surely it's not that bad. I mean, plenty of people still investing up there, so.
It's because we're all investing in this, driving the prices down.
But my main thing about this is, right, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but what happens, because obviously people up in Aberdeen are doing the strategy that you've been doing, which is to buy at a discount. So that's great when you're buying at a discount, and these figures play into your hand, right? Then you're doing the full renovation, spending 15 to 20 grand, but then you're getting the end goal is to refinance at the maximum value and get all your money back out. But what happens is, if you get a 2-year fixed rate mortgage or whatever, that's fine. But if things keep going down at negative 6%, say they go to negative 20%, then what happens at the end of your 2-year fixed rate mortgage when you're trying to negotiate that new refinancing, and the values have gone down that much? That's what I'm just saying to people: just be careful at this moment if you're highly leveraged.
Absolutely. So the one thing we've seen from a mortgage brokering perspective in the office is that people have reduced the amount of leverage that they're going for. We've seen a lot more clients coming in now looking at sort of 60%, even 50% LTVs instead, just trying to reduce their own lending risk moving forward. Aberdeen's very, very different. Look. Aberdeen, at its height before the bubble burst, was horrific. It was a market that I said for years in advance, the bubble's going to burst and it's going to cause a catastrophe, and it did. Killed the city from a rental perspective, and it's going to take a long time for that to get back to wherever it was. Even to get back to, as I always say, the Aberdeen rental market wasn't just on its knees; it was on its back with a weight on its chest. And I think they've managed to push that weight off now, and we're starting to kind of get up, but they're still winded, massively winded.
Yeah.
Good analogy.
It's just great to have your perspective, because obviously you've got the mortgage brokerage experience as well.
Sure.
So, and you've Aberdeen, Edinburgh. So it's great to have you on, John, getting your opinions. So I will not. We'll just see where things go. I mean, at the end of the day, like you say, I don't think these headlines and this data should put you off having long-term goals in property investing.
Absolutely not.
No. So you've got to look at the numbers at the end of the day, and that's
the key. Again, as I said, it's your structure. Get your structure right. Speak to the right property professional. Speak to the right tax accountant. Speak to the right solicitors. Once you get your structure correct, let's then look at a balanced portfolio. There's nothing wrong with looking in Aberdeen. but perhaps you should be looking at something slightly higher yielding in Glasgow. Maybe we should look at something with stronger asset appreciation in Edinburgh. Get that balance and have the right property managers behind you that can look after those properties, irrespective of where they are geographically.
Yeah, I think you touched on that as well there when you're talking about people look at the cash flow from properties, but they won't look at the capital appreciation. Now, if you factor that capital appreciation into your monthly gain, so to speak, that's when a real good capital appreciation area could do well in your portfolio over a long period of time.
Sure. Yeah. We actually value every property we have under management annually and provide that information as standard to all of our landlords. And it's amazing how much that opens up some really interesting, eye-opening conversations. Yeah. And sometimes, when they've had a really shit month or a shit year in terms of the returns, maybe they did have to replace that kitchen you mentioned or that boiler. But when you break down, you actually show the increase in value over, say, since they first invested in it with ourselves, say 3, 4, 5 years earlier, you showed them that growth in value. Yeah.
I mean, I know I harp on about the property prices and all the data quite a lot, but I do find it interesting because you look at all the different commentators and stuff like that, and, you know, you just think somebody's got to be right. So some people are saying, you know, 30-40% crash.
Or everyone's wrong.
I can't see it happening. Right, these people that say there's going to be a 30 to 40% crash.
Sure.
The basic fundamentals of supply and demand, which you touched on at the start, and you've talked about, because there's not enough stock and homes coming to the market, that's almost like balancing out with the problems that we're having with the not tightening of credit, but the more expensive credit now with mortgages and that. It's basically putting a dampener on the demands. So it's all kind of balancing itself out as far as I can see at the moment. Yeah,
and again, you've got to look at loan to value, availability, stress testing and lending and so on. It's all built to negate risk.
Yeah.
And so we're in a far stronger market now. The market has a brain because the lenders are using their brains. You know, there's more experienced landlords in the market. There's more education out there for them. Yeah. So I don't see it happening.
Stress test was a big one as well. Yeah,
I think it was one of the best things ever happened to the rental market and for investors. And I think people don't realise just how good it was for us. By negating that risk for you, it means you don't have to take it into consideration yourself.
Yeah.
So if I was to put you on the spot and I was to sort of ask you to give us a. So we're talking about Scotland in general, average house price data here on the ONS. When we come to the end of this year, looking back over the 12 months, what do you think the figure will be sitting at?
See, here you go, put it in the spot. I think you're planning to put this together over everyone over the year and come to the end of the year, so someone can win a prize.
We should.
I think, look, again, I'm ever the optimist. I think we'll see. It comes down to, which I'm sure we'll get to, inflation and see where the market kind of goes in general. Yeah. But if we can as a country, get on top of inflation, reduce a number of other sort of costs in our life, I think the property market will balance itself out and we'll see that ever so steady kind of growth. Yeah, I don't see us dropping
John,
much more.
Come on, I'm wanting a number here. Like, come on. -5%, -10%.
Why does that have to be minus?
I know.
Plus,
we're sitting at +1 this month.
Can it go higher? Come on. We're just starting to see the pain in the mortgage market coming through. So we're on that downtrend.
I'm gonna, again, this is never me, but I'm just gonna sit on that fence and say it's gonna level itself out at 0%. We're just gonna sit there and ride the waves. Ride the waves.
I did try.
You did touch on it, saying that the lending, the interest rates are starting to come down.
We'll get on to that, So this is the next story. So, Mortgage Works. The headline is the Mortgage Works, which was one of the biggest buy-to-let lenders. They've slashed their their buy-to-let rates.
That's 0.01% or something.
A bit of an over-exaggeration maybe. But I think some of my fixed-term rates came to an end there. And I've not taken the 5-year fixes. I've just taken the 2 years. Because obviously, things coming down. Don't want to be fixed in for too long, and I think I was looking at around about kind of 6%, but I'm actually looking for the data for the.
You should have maybe spoke to a good mortgage broker based in Edinburgh with 17 years of experience.
Yeah. Oh, here he goes again. He's good at plugging himself, but he's not very good at giving us predictions.
What can I say?
So a 2-year fixed rate limited company at 75% loan to value with a 3% fee. You tend to see a lot of the lenders now coming out with these fees. Quite high fees.
Sure.
Rate has been reduced by 0.25% to 4.74% for remortgages. That's for the 2-year. Hell, why did I get 6%?
Yeah, that's what you were saying. You got absolutely screwed.
No,
you should.
That was Aldermore actually. No, I had a couple with Mortgage Works and had one Waldemore. I think the one Waldemore now from memory was at 5.99 or something like that.
Look, I mean, if you look at personal rates, personal buy-to-let rates between 2 year and 5 year fixed rates.
Personal now.
People that haven't restructured just yet. That's the thing. So it's having that conversation. But if people do want to continue carrying it in their personal name, it's comfortable. You can get 2 year and 5 year fixed rates below 4% just now, which is great. It's good to see. TMW is always leading the way. They always have done. And everybody else will follow suit as you go. And then from a limited company and
as a broker though, John, how can you shine some light on how lenders can reduce their margins by 0.25% when base rates still been going up? It's not even leveled out yet.
Yeah, exactly, and it will go up again.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing I will openly say here, Nick, is that
next prediction time.
Like
my prediction, we'll go at 4.5 in May.
4.5,
100%.
Yeah.
So if base rate goes to 4.5 and you've got your TMW going at fixed at 4.49, how?
Swap rates have reduced, and the lenders themselves are. Some of them in a real kind of relaxed way to put it, a big finger, 2 fingers up to the Bank of England and so on, and say, no, rates are good, we're competitive, we're seeing, they're doing a good job. I genuinely believe this. Not just buy-to-let lenders, but all banks and building societies have now got their brain working
engaged,
properly. And again, it's all about responsible lending. We did learn from 2007, 2008. And I think
it's interesting you say that, because I was panicking for a wee while there. About 2 years ago, I saw lenders were coming out and offering pretty much 100% mortgages based on what you were getting your purchase price at and or your valuation at, not your purchase price. And I thought, oh shit, this, as much as good for growth and you're getting a really good discount on a portfolio purchase, it was a bit like, if they're starting to be that lax, where's this going?
There's a few of them coming into the market, and again, it comes down to stress testing, and criteria itself has become far more robust in terms of what all lenders require.
How can it work? Right, Edinburgh property prices, right? It's a different ball game altogether compared to Glasgow, right? So are people still buying investment properties in Edinburgh at these rates?
Yes.
How can it work? I mean, like, because the rents have gone up.
Again, it's all semantics at the end of the day. It's how you put it across to your clients as well. I'm not trying to say that I'm going to sell that types of properties upon my clients and tell them that they're fantastic deals when they're not, but it's getting comfortable with the fact that if you bought that property a year ago, you might have been end of the year, maybe sitting at about 6-7% net return on that property. Now you're sitting at 3 or 4, and it's getting the client comfortable with that. Along again, going back to asset appreciation on top of that, which we can prove based on historical data.
What's their goal? What's the reason for buying? Like, I know some people buy for their kids going to university and all the rest of it, so it might not necessarily.
And again, it goes back to leverage. So you might end up looking to buy that at say 50% LTV instead.
Yeah.
Put a little bit more money into that, tie a bit more of your wealth into those properties for the time being until rates reduce. You can maybe pull out some more in the future, but to kind of get your hands on some of these properties that are in some fantastic areas, you're seeing so much more short-term let properties coming to the market and the open market, and there's a lot of opportunities for ourselves, companies like ours, again, access to those properties exclusively to sell off market to our investors. And some are going to say, well, we'd be mad not to pick this up right now, irrespective of cost.
Do you think we can get back, like in the next couple of years, to those rates of 3-4% for limited company?
Probably not.
Yeah,
I think we've had it easy. Like, let's be honest,
too easy. Yeah.
And again, I'm fortunate. As much as I look extremely young. I've been doing this for 17 years now as a broker, and so I've seen it. I've been there and done it from when the rates were ridiculous. I was that awful broker that went to people's houses and did 125% lending.
It's all your fault.
Yeah, but that's what we did. That was the game. So I've been there.
I was the guy that was taking it.
Yeah, and I remember talking to people about limited company lending when that was starting to become the next big thing, and I used to say to everyone, as soon as TMW come into that market, when you see Nationwide and Lloyd's Group starting to throw money at limited company lending, then it would become more affordable and rates would drop, and it's exactly what happened.
We've all got a part to play.
Yeah, but 10 years ago we had it easy, and for the last decade we've had it easy. So I think we just need to start getting comfortable with the fact that 4 or 5% interest rates is going to be here to stay.
But it's like you're talking about the new interest rates plus 6% ATS. But then you spin it on the positive, and Nick's saying that 1S 2 beds flats has went from 850 to 1200 and probably could have got more. So, okay, our costs have increased, but the returns increased as well.
Absolutely.
And it's going to continue to increase, I would have thought.
So obviously that touches on the chat about, UK inflation is proving to be very stubborn. I think over in the States, they seem to have a bit more of a handle on it. Things are going down quicker, but over here, 10.1%. I mean, I think it was a tiny drop on the last month's figures, but we're still, CPI 10.1%. and obviously we know that that's the Bank of England. That's the only tool really they've got is interest rates to try and control and bring down inflation.
Sure.
So this is why you're pretty confident that the next interest rate review, Bank of England interest rate reviews, are probably going to notch up another.
It'll notch up by 0.25%. I would say almost guaranteed.
And is that stopped, do you think, or will it just depend on the inflation data?
It'll depend on inflation data, but I think, the key is I do genuinely believe that the government's plans to reduce this right back down to 2-3% is going to happen. Ex-head economist at the Bank of England himself has pretty much put his own wallet on the fact that he thinks the next 6 months that we'll see that immediate drop down.
The thing that kind of you look at the food inflation and all that, I think that's one of the key drivers at the moment. I think that was 18% or something like that.
So food inflation's dropped this month by ever so slight amount, and I think the purchasing of supermarket owned brands has jumped by over 16%. Forgive me, I forget the exact stat, but it's certainly jumped up by a fair old whack as well. The fact that it's dropped slightly is great. It doesn't need to drop by massive amounts, but it just needs to continue that.
So that's the optimist coming out in you guys again.
What do you guys think that the impact of this high interest rate? So we went from 0.1 to 4.5 in less than a year. Mm-hmm. That's a huge increase in such a short period of time. Where does that take the economy, house prices,
home ownership,
general
just people that really maxed out and bought even a 4-bedroom detached family home or something like that when they got rates.
They'll get 1.8 or 1.4.
I think mine was 1.6. I think
1.5.
I'm shitting myself as well because obviously I think it's 2024 mine's comes to end. So
there'll be a lot of people coming to end of fixed terms in the coming year or two.
I don't profess to be the full-on mortgage guru, but I've been doing it long enough. My own personal mortgage jumped up by 3%. And I've done the sums on it, and to come out of my previous early repayment charge, pay that, and then to jump on a rate when I've seen market rate going up, it made sense to sit where I am.
What are your payments now?
What's his interest rate?
I'm just a kick off of $2,000 at the moment.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow. That's the end of the prices.
We need to Google your house now.
But rough for the smooth. I do see, again, if I chose to go down the route of tracker rate for now, I'm going to bide my time.
That's interesting as well. Trackers have kind of
lenders have been really
in,
flexible. Yeah, they're allowing to jump from trackers onto fixed rates for no fees and so on. So there's lots of incentives that you can look at. So I'm playing a bit of a game just now. It's costing me a bloody fortune.
I just look at it and say we just need to make more money.
Yeah.
Just get out there and get graphic.
I think that is exactly how I look at things. It's a case of, right, well, listen, if this is the game you want to be in, then we're going through a period of volatility, so kick on.
And take advantage of opportunities as well.
Absolutely.
I've got to say, though, when I was getting my mortgage at 1.6%, I never ever thought I'd be in that position where things would jump up. Like you say, we just had it too good for too long. 10 years of free money, basically.
It's hard. You don't want to give everyone too much tough love. And don't get me wrong, so in our office we still have the first time buyers coming in, and the first time buyers from a few years ago now coming back to us to refinance or to look at their options. And I've even seen tears in the office. It's not much fun. And we're really lucky we've got a real sound team of property and mortgage professionals in the office to kind of help try and walk these clients through and find the best sort of next steps for them. But no, it's not fun. It's not. I hate talking negatively, as you've probably guessed throughout the chat so far. But we're going through a tough time, and people, homeowners that got into the game, they thought it was the right time. In some respects, it's the wrong time. It was the wrong time for them because now they're having to wake up the realization that this is going to cost us a lot of money for the next however many years.
No.
And moving on to our last article, so I think this deserves a mention because I personally want to support it. I've put 50 quid into it. so I know it's not a lot, but do you know what? Looking at the stats, if everybody put a small amount into it, they would reach their target pretty quickly. So this is the partnership between the Scottish Association of Landlords and Property Mark, I think, and there's one other. And basically they are challenging the Scottish Government. They want to challenge them, take them to court over this emergency rent freeze and eviction ban, basically, which obviously seems pretty unfair. Like you said earlier on, Stephen, they just literally announced it overnight without any consulting anybody. So they are crowdfunding on the crowdfunding platform crowd justice. We'll put a link to it in the show notes. They're trying to get, I think, initially £60,000. I had a look last night when I put my 50 quid in, and they've got £27,000, and they've only got 10 days to go. And only 277 people have put money in out of 246,000 registered landlords. Yeah. So we're not really, so we're hoping to get the message out here, but I don't know. I mean, like, what do you think the chances are? I mean, nobody's putting them.
Firstly, you're a cheeky bugger putting your 50 quid in last night just so you can sit here going, I've done it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I did. But to be fair, it was always on my mind. Putting this together last night just reminded me. So yeah.
But I think you're right. That's the point, is reminding it. There's not been enough exposure about it.
Yeah.
I'm the same. I haven't put my hand in the pocket for it. And it's
I never knew about it until we started the conversation.
Look, 60 grand, it's enough to get them going. The Scottish Government's pockets are a lot deeper than a quick crowdfund. If we honestly think 60 grand's enough to get this going, then we've been smoking our own socks. Like, it's not going to happen. Let's be honest. It'd be great to kind of increase this exposure. I'd love to see us be able to legally challenge this and see where we can take it.
Yeah.
The big thing, I suppose, is that typical Scottish bloody mentality, isn't it? We're like, oh, great, they're raising funds for it. I look forward to seeing it happen, and then it doesn't, and then we all shout at each other and blame each other for it not happening. So, I suppose, if anything, if we can create some sort of exposure today and tell people.
But you'll see it as well in the business. Everyone's wanting to complain about it, but like you say, if you just put, I don't think you actually need to put that much in. If everybody just puts a little bit in, I mean, I know not everybody will, but even if a tenth of the landlord population put in a bit.
Well, it's jumped by 10% since I looked at it last week.
That's because of my 50 quid.
Because you're 50 quid, yeah. So, I mean, there you go. So it does show that it is actually going in the right direction.
Well, we've got 4,000 people on the Scottish Property Podcast Facebook group. Everybody put in how much? A tenner?
Aye.
Did we get there?
I don't know.
Now we're 27, we've been no far off.
Need to do the sums. But again, this comes back to, really, is it going to change? The general direction is, if you look at the Scottish Government's, I think they put out a housing strategy to 2040 and all the rest of it. It's not really going to change the whole path to tighter rent controls, which is going to happen. These whole emergency legislation things that they keep coming out with, it's almost just trying to buy them time. Correct. So that they can get something in place that's going to be more longer term. And, put it to you just now, what do you think it's going to look like? Because obviously at the moment we have the rent caps. Could it be a continuation of that? Or could they look at like geographical regions and say, well, the West End of Glasgow, let's take the data from there and let's say, you've got a 2-bedroom flat there, have like 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom rates, and is that going to be the maximum you can charge?
There's so many different ways to skin a cat. Look, regionalising I think is quite clever, because we've shown ourselves that when you break down the micro data for Scotland, that every area is so different in terms of how they run, in terms of how it works, how it reacts. So I think regionalisation would be the best way.
I just don't see they can regionalise it either, because yourself, if you've got a 1-bedroom flat in the city centre of Edinburgh, the 1-bedroom flat could be 31 square metres, or one could be 70 square metres, and one's a fucking multi-million pound penthouse, and the other one's a bog standardy one. So I think it's really going to be hard to try and mitigate and try and cap it.
It's going to happen, though, isn't it? Yeah, for sure.
Something's going to happen.
Absolutely, well, yeah. And again, it'd be interesting to see, who takes it by the short and curlies and actually gets it sorted out, and how they manage to get people to back it, because everyone's got so many. I think even we've found ourselves today, there's so many different varying opinions out there in terms of how to go about doing this. They haven't got an easy job, let's be honest.
I think the issue is, from what I hear, is they've not got the data. They need the data, some way of collecting the data at a centralised place. They can't just go on city lets and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's it. I mean, you could say the same thing for the short-term let licensing that's coming in as well. They haven't got the data to try and find some sort of way to kind of to set in stone how we go about progressing forward. So.
And let's face it, as landlords, we are, 6% of the voting population. So we're never going to get any sympathy from the general public. I think we just need to accept that.
Just accept it and get on with it. Stephen, you said that earlier. We just need to get on with it, and if anything, just get some work done, work even harder, get cracking, and at the end of the day, think a bit smarter. Don't be shy to go and get proper qualified advice. Don't just be sitting on LinkedIn listening to the next sourcer that's updated his profile page. Get out there, look for the right people, and take some time, do your due diligence.
TikTok, on TikTok yet, John?
Interestingly, I was at Property Mark's national seminar last month, I think it was, in Edinburgh, and at the back I was listening to someone doing a talk about marketing and social media, and I sat there and set up Cox & Co's first TikTok page during the talk. So yes, we are on there.
Where else can people reach out to you, just to finish up?
So Cox & Co itself, our website, coxandco.co, that's .co, not .co.uk or .com. LinkedIn, as many people might already know, I'm quite busy on LinkedIn. Right. We've got a great Instagram page as well, and Facebook.
Fantastic. We really appreciate it. I think it's been brilliant. We'll definitely have you back on.
I hope so, yeah. Thanks, guys. Lots more to talk about.
Thanks
I'm more
a lot,
than happy to get more controversial later. So
enjoyed the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.